The gravel crunched under my boots as I stepped out of my pickup truck, the one everyone in this neighborhood already seemed to hate. Rust on the sides, a dented fender, and a folded tarp in the bed. None of it mattered to me. But to them, it was all they needed to label me. Before I could even shut the door, I felt the stares. Cold, quiet judgment from across the street. Then the sound of heels clicking. Her? Karen stood with her phone already up, angled just enough so it looked like she wasn't filming. She was. Her face was tight with fake concern, but her voice cut like broken glass. She asked if I was lost, then didn't wait for an answer. Said I shouldn't be here. Said this community had standards. Said people like me made property values drop. She smirked at my box of tools, looked down at the old cooler I was carrying like it confirmed everything she wanted to believe. She called me homeless. Said the HOA doesn't allow squatters. And the way she said it, it wasn't just cruel. It was rehearsed. Then she laughed. Not a normal laugh. That kind of dry, sharp laugh people use when they think they're winning something. I didn't say a word. Just nodded slightly. Let her enjoy her little show. Behind her, two other residents stood watching like backup dancers in a gossip musical. One whispered something, and they all turned away, except Karen. She walked to the corner of my driveway, pulled out a bright orange violation notice, and slapped it onto my trash bin like she was branding cattle. She told me I had 24 hours to leave or she'd escalate it legally. She didn't know the deed was already in my name. And she definitely didn't know I was already inside the system she thought she ran. Later that evening, I walked to the community mailbox. Karen and her friends were still outside, wine glasses in hand, whispering like high schoolers with a secret. They glanced at me like I was a disease, a problem they thought they could erase with enough signatures. What they didn't notice was the small drone floating silently above, recording every word, every smirk, every slur. I wasn't just collecting mail, I was collecting evidence. Back inside, I set down the envelope I pulled from the mailbox. HOA credentials. My official badge had arrived early. Karen didn't even know who she was talking to. Before the sun rose, she'd tell the entire neighborhood I was a fake. A con artist. A squatter. But soon, she'll find out I not only live here, I run it. And if you've ever been judged for how you look, what you drive, or where you came from, do one thing for me. Like this video, subscribe and comment, I belong below. Let's remind every Karen in the world that respect isn't something they hand out, it's something we take back. Because the next time she tries to slap a notice on my door, she'll be the one getting the warning. By sunrise, the neighborhood was buzzing like a hornet's nest. Karen's voice had done its work. She'd started the morning early, walking door to door with her clipboard, spinning a narrative so polished it almost sounded real. She told them I was dangerous. Said she'd seen me digging through trash. Claimed I was squatting in a foreclosed unit, possibly with a fake key. At least 6 people signed her petition before breakfast. One neighbor, Rick, from 3 doors down, wouldn't even meet my eyes. When I waved, he pretended to fix his mailbox. Another walked his dog across the street just to avoid my sidewalk. I opened my front door to find a bright yellow violation taped across the glass. Immediate HOA review required. No signature. Just a stamp. I peeled it off slowly, calmly. I already knew whose hands had written it. That evening, Karen stood in the cul-de-sac like a conductor. Her group circled her, nodding, whispering, soaking in every word she said about my supposed criminal record and how she'd personally alerted HOA enforcement. She didn't realize there was no separate HOA enforcement. Not anymore. Because I was it. She called for an emergency HOA board meeting. Demanded my squatting be addressed. Insisted I wasn't just a threat, I was a blight on the community. The board reluctantly agreed. Thursday night. Community center. Closed to the public. I showed up 20 minutes early, walked through the front door with a manila envelope tucked under my arm. Karen was already inside, whispering to a few hesitant board members. She didn't see me at first. When she finally did, her smile dropped for just a second. Just enough. She stood tall, raised her voice so the whole room could hear. Sir, this meeting is private, board members only. The others looked at me awkwardly, unsure how to react. She was already prepping her next move. That's when I calmly opened the envelope. pulled out 3 documents: my ownership title, my HOA director's contract, and my access credentials. Slid them across the table. The room went quiet. Karen stepped forward, trying to mask the panic with authority. Anyone can print documents, but she was shaking. One of the older board members, Joan, leaned over the table and read the papers. Her eyes widened. She looked at Karen, then back at me. "This is all real," she said softly. Karen's mouth opened, but no sound came out. I didn't explain myself. I didn't need to. I just sat down at the head of the table. Karen blinked hard, trying to understand what was happening. You're not even on the... I am," I said, calm, direct. "And I have been for months." She tried to laugh it off, called it a setup. But the board members weren't laughing. Because I wasn't just some random guy. I wasn't squatting. I was the HOA director brought in to quietly assess internal corruption after an anonymous complaint. And her name was all over the files. Karen backed away, muttering something about legal action. But even her voice couldn't compete with the silence that followed. That night, I got an email from a neighbor I'd never met. Just 2 words: "Thank you." And if you've ever had to bite your tongue while someone lied about you, if you've ever had to stay calm while they built their fantasy, then like this video, subscribe right now, and comment "stay calm" below. Because silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. And Karen just made her loudest mistake yet. The sound of fists slamming against my door shattered the morning stillness. I checked the time, 5:07 a.m. Then came the yelling. Karen's voice, sharper than sirens, echoing through the cold air. "This is trespassing. Open up. You don't live here." Blue and red lights reflected off my kitchen window. I stepped outside slowly, hands visible calm. 2 police cruisers idled on the curb. Karen stood between them, barefoot in a robe, phone raised like it was her badge of power. She screamed that I was stealing utilities, that I had no legal right to be in the unit, that I was manipulating documents and scaring families. One of the officers, a younger man, approached cautiously. His partner hung back, arms crossed, watching Karen like he'd seen this before. I didn't say much, just handed over a binder with everything. My ID, the deed, HOA credentials. The officer flipped through it, confused, then paused. His eyes scanned the name again, and something changed. He looked at me longer. He stepped back and quietly asked Karen, "Did you file a report before coming here?" Her voice cracked. "I don't need to. I'm HOA. This is my neighborhood." The older officer stepped forward, eyes locked on her. "That doesn't give you authority to harass a legal homeowner at 5 in the morning." Karen's face drained. "Harass? I'm protecting the community." He turned to me. "Sir, I recognize your name. Weren't you involved in that discrimination case in Briarwood Hills?" I nodded once. "Helped a few families stay in their homes." He nodded back. "My mother was one of them." Karen's eyes darted between us, suddenly silent. The officers apologized and left. Karen didn't. She stood frozen as her neighbors peeked through curtains. She was shaking, but not from fear, from anger. She wasn't used to losing control, especially not like this. Before she left, she pointed her finger at me. "This isn't over." She was right. It wasn't. By noon, she'd sent out a wide bulletin claiming I falsified my position, that I was a fraud. She posted screenshots of old records, cropped, doctored, anything to stir doubt. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because that afternoon, I walked into the HOA digital server, logged in using my full administrative access, and pulled every record Karen had ever submitted, every misuse of funds, every violation she buried, every complaint she rerouted to protect her friends. And there it was, a file marked K confidential. Inside were emails, personal favors, forged signatures, a deleted fine for her own illegal fence installation, enough material to collapse her entire standing. But I didn't release it. Not yet. Because some people don't just need to be exposed. They need to be seen crumbling under the weight of their own lies. And if you've ever been lied about, if someone's ever weaponized gossip against you, this is your moment. Like the video, subscribe and comment. Truth always wins if you've ever had to rise above the noise. Karen thought she could bury me in rumors. She just handed me the shovel. The next HOA meeting was packed. Every seat taken. People who hadn't shown up in years were suddenly front row, eyes wide, ready for a spectacle. Karen strutted in late, her usual smirk gone, replaced with something brittle. She wore a blazer too sharp for the weather and a necklace that didn't quite sit right on her collarbone, like she was trying to armor herself in confidence. She didn't look at me. She didn't have to. Because the second she sat down, everyone else did too. Like she still controlled the rhythm of the room. But she didn't see the subtle shift. How eyes didn't follow her anymore. They were watching me. Joan from the board opened the meeting with a sigh. We have some community concerns to address. Her tone was careful, measured. The kind of voice used when there's dynamite on the table. Karen raised her hand immediately. Before anything else, I want a motion to remove the acting director. She didn't even say my name. He's hostile, unqualified, and not aligned with the HOA's vision. Yes, whispers, but no support. I have signatures, she added, waving a stapled packet in the air like a trophy. That's when I stood up. Quietly, slowly. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I slid a flash drive onto the projector laptop. The screen flickered. The silence washed over the room as dozens of emails appeared one after the other. Emails with Karen's name, her tone, her schemes. She froze. That kind of freeze where everything inside is collapsing, but you're trying to keep your spine straight. People began reading aloud. We'll waive that fine if your cousin votes with us next quarter. Don't worry, I took care of the complaint. It disappeared. If we approve his shed, others will think they have rights too. Karen tried to interrupt, but every voice in the room got louder. Rick stood up, the same guy who avoided my wave days earlier. You lied to us. His voice cracked, not with rage, but betrayal. You said he didn't belong here. But you're the one breaking rules. Karen's eyes flared. You're all being manipulated. He's twisting things. Joan stood next. Karen, that's your email. That's your signature. Then came the final blow. The financial report. $12,000 missing from landscaping accounts. Reappeared in private contractor fees. Signed off by Karen R. Douglas. The air was cold. Karen looked around, suddenly realizing no one was beside her anymore. No backup dancers. No nodding crowd. Just space. She turned to me, one last spark in her voice. You planned this. You set me up. I shook my head. You built the trap yourself. I just stopped you from blaming the rest of us when it snapped shut. The board voted unanimously. Karen was stripped of all HOA power, banned from committee voting, and an official investigation was opened that very night. She left the room in silence, but not before whispering something just loud enough for me to hear. I'm not done. And if you've ever watched someone fall from a pedestal they built on lies, if you've ever had to stand your ground while they try to bury you in their storm, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment I stand tall. Because this wasn't her defeat. It was just her retreat. Karen disappeared for 3 days. Not a whisper. Not a door slam. Not even a complaint about garbage bins or grass height. The neighborhood felt quieter, but not peaceful. More like the tension before a storm finally breaks. Then on the 4th day, a sheriff's vehicle rolled into the community. Slow. Purposeful. People peeked from windows again. Curtains twitched. Lawns were abandoned mid-mow. The deputy knocked on Karen's door. No answer. Knocked again, harder. Still nothing. He turned, walked down the steps, and quietly handed a white envelope to Joan. You'll want to see this, he said. It was an official notification. Karen was being investigated for HOA fund misappropriation, document forgery, and tampering with official voting processes. 2 hours later, movers arrived. Not police. Movers. Karen didn't come out, but her front windows were wide open. We could all hear her voice, frantic, pacing, spiraling into arguments with someone on speakerphone. Something about being framed. Something about needing an attorney who actually knows people. She was spiraling, but I wasn't watching her. I was in the park, watching 2 neighborhood kids draw with chalk on the sidewalk. No more security patrols. No more curfews. No more threats of fines for laughing too loud. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't about Karen. It never was. It was about every neighbor who felt like a prisoner in their own home. Every parent who feared letting their child ride a bike without some new invented regulation chasing them down. It was about freedom from tyranny hiding behind a clipboard. That night, I held a community forum. Not a meeting, a conversation. No microphones, no podium, just folding chairs and voices that had been quiet too long. Rick admitted he paid Karen to overlook a fence violation. Joan confessed she'd let Karen push her into voting against her conscience year after year. Others apologized to each other. Fences mended, literally and otherwise. And I just listened. When it was over, someone asked me, "So, what now? Are you going to stay the director?" I looked at them, all of them, and smiled. "No," I said. "This HOA doesn't need a director anymore. It needs neighbors." The next morning, Karen was gone. The house was empty. For sale sign posted. A silence hung over the place like fog, but no one missed her. Instead, the community began changing. Slowly. Real changes. The playground was fixed. A neighborhood newsletter launched, with jokes, birthdays, real stories. Fences went up without drama. People waved again. One evening, I came home to find a small note taped to my door. 3 words, written in a child's handwriting. "Thank you, neighbor." And if you've ever stood up for truth, even when your voice shook, even when the odds felt stacked against you, then like this video, subscribe and comment. Truth never leaves. Because silence isn't surrender. It's the moment before justice finally speaks. And Karen, she heard it loud and clear. Weeks passed. Karen was gone, but her shadow wasn't. A new family moved into her house. Young couple. Quiet. Polite. The kind of people she would have fined for wind chimes or shade sails. Now that home, once a fortress of control, had sunflowers in the yard. But one afternoon, an envelope appeared in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name, written in all caps, shaky handwriting. Inside, there were photos. Dozens. Printed on cheap paper, some blurred. Surveillance shots of me in my backyard. Talking to neighbors. Sitting in my car. The last one. Me unlocking the HOA server room. I froze. On the back of the photo was a note, typed in red ink. "You think it's over." But I was never alone. There was no signature. But I didn't need one. Karen hadn't acted alone. And now whoever she'd worked with was sending a message. I wanted Joan immediately. She scanned the photos, face pale. "We never checked her email contacts," she whispered. What if this wasn't just about HOA power? What if she was protecting something bigger? That night, I accessed the archived server backups. Deep folders. Hidden files. I found a folder titled Committee X. Inside, PDFs of secret meetings, unapproved subcommittees, off-the-book expenditures. There were names I didn't recognize. But one I did. Tom Whitaker, the original developer of the entire neighborhood. He'd left years ago. Sold off his stake after a legal dispute. But apparently, he'd stayed connected through Karen. She'd been funneling influence to keep certain properties undervalued, buying them quietly through shell LLCs tied to him. They were building something behind the scenes. This wasn't just corruption. It was real estate manipulation. On a community scale, I reached out to the county records office. Quietly, discreetly, and confirmed the transfers. Karen had been a pawn. A loud, angry distraction. But Tom? He was the hand moving the pieces. That weekend, I was followed. Car behind me for 6 turns. A man standing outside my house just watching. Not doing anything. Just being seen. The next HOA meeting, I showed the board everything. Joan, Rick, and 2 new members we just elected. They were shocked, but not surprised. Because deep down, everyone knew. Power doesn't disappear. It just changes masks. We voted to file a formal complaint with the State Housing Authority. And we submitted every file, every name, every timestamp. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about cutting out the rot for good. But something felt different. Like we'd crossed into deeper waters. Because that same night, I got another letter. This one wasn't a threat. It was a contract, offered by a private firm tied to Whitaker's name. A buyout. For my house. Full cash. No questions. Triple the value. I read it twice, and then burned it in the fire pit. Because you don't bargain with people who treat homes like pawns. You expose them. And if you've ever stood at the edge of something bigger than yourself, if you've ever refused to back down when the price got high, then like this video, subscribe and comment, "I'm not for sale." Karen was never the storm. She was just the first crack in the dam. And now the flood was coming. They tried to silence me. After I refused the buyout, the pressure came fast. Anonymous letters turned into emails, then phone calls. At first polite, then colder. The final one wasn't even subtle. A deep voice scrambled. "You can't stop progress. Walk away or be buried beneath it." But they didn't know me. I don't fold under fear. I fold evidence into legal folders and take it where it matters. I handed everything to a state-level investigator. Not local. Not someone easily leaned on. Someone outside their circle. They opened a formal case. Within weeks, state auditors were inside the HOA building. Boxes of files taken. Hard drives cloned. Whispers flew across the neighborhood like wildfire. But the real blow. A news crew showed up. Microphones. Cameras. Community members being interviewed on sidewalks. Headlines rolling across the screen. Private developer accused of HOA manipulation scheme. Karen's name reappeared. So did Tom Whitaker's. And my face, blur in the background, standing behind neighbors who now spoke freely. Proudly. Loudly. This wasn't just our story anymore. It was public. And in the court of public opinion, truth spreads faster than threats. The day the subpoenas arrived, I was mowing my lawn. I saw the unmarked car pull up to Tom's private office downtown. Officers stepped out. Calm. Professional. And Tom? He didn't look like a tycoon. He looked like a man who thought no one was watching. Who forgot that every wall built on lies eventually cracks. He didn't speak. He just lowered his head and walked inside. Karen wasn't there. Rumor was she'd left the state. No forwarding address. No goodbye. Just gone. And for the first time, it felt real. It was over. The power games. The manipulation. The fear. Gone. But what stayed? Something stronger. That same night, we held a community bonfire. Kids laughing. Music playing. Someone brought out homemade banners that read, "We took it back." And as the fire crackled, a quiet moment passed. Joan stood beside me, drink in hand, eyes reflecting the flames. "You know," she said softly, "you could have sold your house. Taken the money. Walked away clean." I smiled. "I didn't move here to be clean. I moved here to belong." She nodded. "You do. Now we all do." And that was it. Not a headline. Not a final act. Just peace. And if you've ever fought for something real, if you've ever chosen community over cash, truth over silence, home over fear, then like this video, subscribe and comment, "We took it back." Because in the end, power doesn't live in offices or boardrooms. It lives in people. In front porches. In backyard fences. In every neighbor who refuses to be silent. Karen thought I was just a problem. She didn't know. I was the solution.